And this is by, from NOVA, and this is...
Gaze into a mirror, and what do you see?
Well, so I'll let him talk.
I see my face, of course. But in my face, I see moods, I see shifts of feeling. We humans are really good at reading faces and bodies, because if I can look at you and feel what you're feeling, I can learn from you, connect to you, I can love you. Empathy is one of our finer traits, and when it happens so easily, perhaps because, and this is brand new science, this is just out of the lab, we may have some special circuitry in our brains that helps us whenever we look at each other. Ask yourself, why do people get so involved, so deeply, deeply involved with such anguish, such pain, such nail-biting tension over football? Why are we such suckers for sports? And it's not just sports. We can lose it completely at the movies, at video games, watching a dance. Is there something about humans particularly, that allows us to connect so deeply when we watch other people? Watch them moving, watch them playing, watch their faces. Well, as it happens, scientists have an explanation for this strange ability to connect. It's new. It has never been found on the cellular level before. A set of brain cells found on either side of the head. Among all the billions of long branching cells in our brain, these so-called mirror neurons have surprising power. What we found is the mechanism that underlies something which is absolutely fundamental to the way that we see other people in the world. And it began entirely by accident at a laboratory in the lovely old city of Parma, Italy, where a group of brain researchers was working with monkeys. And they were testing a neuron, it's a brain cell, that always made this sound whenever the monkey would grab for a peanut. So they had all these peanuts around, and whenever the monkey made its move, the neuron would fire. Scientists thought, now here's a neuron that is essential to motion. It's a motor neuron. Then one day the monkey was just sitting around, not moving at all, just sitting, when a human scientist came into the lab, and when that scientist grasped the peanut, the monkey's cell fired. Now, the monkey had moved. It was the human that had moved, suggesting that this neuron up here couldn't tell the difference between seeing something and doing something. Seeing and doing were the same. Or more intriguingly, that for this neuron, watching somebody do something is just like doing it yourself. The head of the lab, Janaki Kumar, thought, wow. The same neurons, one neuron, fire both when the monkey observes something and when the monkey is doing something. It's almost unbelievable. It was surprising because this cell which was involved with motor planning for the monkey turned out to be interested in the movements of other people as well.
Yeah. So the interesting research, it shows us why we are wired for empathy, because the neurons are similar. If someone is walking here with a big stack of books, let's say, or a big, and if they're walking around, we would physically feel that pain and the discomfort of watching them, and that's how we are wired. We are wired for empathy. So now then you may ask, what does that have to do with enterprise software, right? Why does the monkey research with mirror neurons, does it have any relevance to enterprise software? And for those who are not familiar with enterprise software, most of you may be, but this is how I like to explain it to the novice. If you order something online and it arrives at your door, everything that happens in between is enterprise software. So you have an order that's created, you have inventory that's checked, if needed, raw materials are purchased, production is initiated, finally, an invoice is cut, sent to the customer, and then shipping and logistics take over. All these activities have to be recorded in the company's financial books because they have to be accurate and auditable every year. In addition, the salaries of the human beings doing all this work has to be paid. That, in a nutshell, is what enterprise software is all about. Now, When you're designing for consumer software, right? Let's imagine that you're a designer of a music player or headphones. You could very well decide that you don't need to do any research at all. You don't need to talk to anybody, but you could just basically build upon your own instincts, your tastes, your preferences, because you're a music lover. Why not just design something for yourself? And which is what Steve Jobs would advocate for the music system. And guess what? It works really, really well. There's nothing wrong with that because you have empathy with yourself. However, we don't have that advantage. If you're working in the field of enterprise software and you're designing a product for someone else, we don't have that luxury. We are not the CFOs whose dashboards we design. We are not the doctors whose, cancer-saving dashboard or apps or any other systems that we are designing. We are not the inventory stocking person or the person delivering the product to other people's door. We are not. We can never be in our lives, most likely. And we are not the mailman either. So since we are not, why do we pretend to be? Why do we pretend to be? Let's use the power of empathy. Let's use the power of empathy to bridge this gap to help us be better designers. So this is what we've done in the Design and Co-Innovation Center. SAP is a very large enterprise software company. And so the Design and Co-Innovation Center, many of the colleagues are here today. And what we do is we are a little design agency within SAP. So we get to work on these business, the strategic design projects with many of our customers. And empathy is a huge tool that we use. So we worked with over 400 customers in the last less than 3 years. So you can see that the pace is really fast. We use the methodology called design thinking, which is used by IDEO, Stanford D-School, and the biggest impact we can make is by investing in the first phase, which is the discover phase, and which is where we get all the empathy for the person that we are designing for. This is a tool we use. This is called the empathy map. Empathy map, we try to, many of you may be familiar with this. Sometimes people don't say what they do. So let's say you're designing a reporting system. And in the reporting system, you ask a person, hey, how do you do your job? They say, I just run reports every week. If you just walk away, you may not realize that what they mean when they say they run the reports is they have an Excel spreadsheets, and then they have all these paper receipts. They input that into the system. They talk to other people, and then they collecting all this information. They slice and dice the data, and that's what they mean when they say they run the report. And what are they thinking? They may be thinking, the numbers don't look right. Am I doing it? The numbers don't look, that's what they may be thinking, but they haven't articulated that to you. And finally, they may be feeling, am I good at my job? Am I good? That's the underlying feeling that they have. And all this information you don't get by just simply talking to them. When you observe them and you really develop an empathy with them, you get a lot more verbal, non-verbal communication from your users that you can utilize to make your designs that much more delightful. So here are some pictures, just a few pictures of the extreme situations that we've gone and observed our users. Things like large offices where people look at dashboards all day long, people who deliver ice creams to Safeways and Trader Joe's. This is a trucking system that delivers Mexican food from across the border and the processes that they go through to make sure that the product is in the shelves. This is another trucking system, and finally a cancer research project. So these are just 5 random pictures that we took. There are many more. We've gone into Genentech clean room environment where we've had to wear the blue suits to go in and get the information that we need. But there's no other alternative to getting the information to design for. So here are 3 examples that I'll give you a quick snapshot of how we used empathy in our design process. So here in this example, Valore is a Mexican food distributor. So they get products from Mexico, and they bring it to the shelves, and you'll see their products in in Safeways and other stores. Their product is so popular that they are constantly running out of materials. And our job was to create transparency in their warehouse and make sure that and there's a lot of safety inspections as well. Since the product is crossing the borders, they have to make sure it's compliant in all these different various aspects. So what we did for them was we co-created the product with the people in the warehouse. And that was really the magic, because, talking to them, empathizing with their situation, and, making sure that the product could be used by them, that was the magic. Because the employees were, a lot of the times when we create software and it doesn't get adopted, it's really a waste. But when you co-create with them and when you empathize with them, they feel like you have taken that extra step to understand them, and that leads to a successful project. The second example is a tennis analytics project. So in this example, the Women's Tennis Association has, they're collecting a lot of information from on the court. There are different cameras that are collecting information. The umpire is giving information as well. So even though a tennis match may be many hours long, there is a specific interaction between the coach and the player, that takes only 90 seconds. And within those 90 seconds, you can determine the game. Like you can shift the game. So we were brought in to collect all this information from all these cameras and all the data, and provide a meaningful UI that the coach could utilize to give meaningful coaching tips to the player. And that product, when you saw earlier, that is a finalist for the Enterprise UX Award. And in this instance, the coach is actually using our app to talk to Garia, who's number 40. And based on the tips, you can actually see there's a YouTube video where, based on the tips, she is able to win that match, even though she's playing against an opponent who's better than her. It also kind of eliminates the tension between the coach and the player. So when the designer, Tim, went on site and he observed the players, he also noticed all this other stuff, right? The body language and the emotional stuff. So we were able to use data to be the equalizer amongst and bring the relationship to the game itself. So it helps in so many different ways. And finally, this project is the medical research project. And so what's happening now is, with cancer research, we are able to get a lot of DNA information, and you can provide very specific treatments for cancer based on the DNA information. So that's what scientists do. They're number crunching, essentially, and providing customized treatments for patients. And so this product was created to help them, do that. And we can never be that researcher, right? I mean, we're not going to go through the years of study to understand the domain, but getting an empathy for what the researcher is trying to do, save the lives of the patients, gives us the empathy and the gut feel to make good decisions to create a product that will be useful for them. So this product won the Red Dot Award and some other awards. We also won the White House Award for that. So let me conclude by saying that a product design is nothing but a series of decisions that ends in an ultimate product in the hands of the customer. And empathy is the heartbeat of the product. So if you find the heartbeat early, then all the decisions that you make along the way will be the right decisions, so that you can ultimately create a product that will delight your user. If you want to see more examples of the type of projects we do, please go to experience.sap.com/design services. And with that, let me thank you for your attention.